is either giving me like a vampire bride or like a corpse bride vibe, but like I'm obsessed. And like, look at the little veil thing. Like, I buy the weirdest shit at Halloween, but I can't not buy costumey things because they're good for videos, but good just to wear to make you feel pretty. Guys, today is 7 on Sunday, and 7 on Sunday is a group that is run by Grace over at G-Swizzel, which is basically a video prompting idea for us all to do so we can talk about different themes. And we always do a video every Sunday, and we always talk about 7 of our favorite or least favorite of certain topics. And as always, Grace is linked down below so you can check out her channel, but also the Goodreads group, because there is so much information on there that will really help you keep up to date with it all. But today we are going to be talking about books that have creatures of the night in them. So books that are more of the paranormal atmosphere here. So it can be vampires, it can be werewolves, it can be ghosts, it can be a wide variety of things. But I have to admit, I don't really read these types of books anymore, and honestly all of my recommendations are like the ones that I read like however many years ago, except for one that I just read recently, and you will know the one that I'm talking about. I don't do the paranormal thing anymore. Like, I feel bad to say that it really felt more of a thing for teenager me to read, and now I just read fantasy and contemporary and sci-fi. I should get back into paranormal, but I just haven't done it. But let's still do this theme, even though these all aren't favorites. Some of them are, some of them aren't, but I'm still going to talk about the book. So of course, the first thing I'm going to mention is the Bloodlines series by Rochelle Mead. I know I can mention Vampire Academy, and I still love Vampire Academy, but like Bloodlines just has a special place in my heart because Adrian and Sydney are so dear to me. And I got into these books when the first 3 had already been released. So like with Vampire Academy, the first 5 had been released, and then I was waiting for the 6th one, but then I didn't start this series for like many years. So I read the first 3, I was very excited for what was going to happen, and then like every book killed me waiting to find out what was going on. But I just love the plot of this story. And of course there is vampires, and there is also vampire protectors, and there's also vampires that are like really bad vampires. But if you want a good vampire story, of course start with Vampire Academy. But oh my god, these books are so good. Next I want to mention the Night World series by LJ Smith. So this is also the author that wrote the Vampire Diaries, which is also a very popular TV show. Even though it's a very weird show, like it started good and then the plot just started going weirder and weirder and weirder, and I haven't even finished the show. I know I should, but I haven't done it yet. I really liked Night World because it was a companion series that didn't just have vampires, but it also had like witches and vampires and magic and different things going on. But the most irritating thing is this series finished over 20 years ago and the 10th book hasn't been released. I only read these books probably for the first time about 7 years ago, so that's how long I've been waiting, but some people have been waiting this whole time. It's nearly as much time as how long I've been alive for. But this book was so good, and as I said, there was different characters, and then they started to like come together, and it was obviously going to the point where like something was gonna peak in the 10th and final book, and we never got it. Like, I don't understand how the whole series could have been published that this happened. But if you do want to get invested in a really good story, like yes, the Vampire Diaries books are very not great, I didn't mind the writing in these, and like yes, they do feel a bit juvenile, but like I honestly had such a fun time with it when I first read it, and I just highly recommend. Next I want to talk about Fateful by Claudia Gray, and all I have to say is this is Titanic, but there's werewolves on the ship. Like, what more do you want? This book wasn't by any means the best thing I've ever read, but if you like the Titanic and you wanted to have some kind of fantasy element going on there, pick it up, because it was just so random. And again, it's werewolves on the Titanic. Like, what more do you want in a book? There's never going to be another book like it. So just for the fact alone that it is werewolves on the Titanic, pick it up. Next, I also want to talk about Spellcaster, which is also by Claudia Gray. I did not plan on having this author back to back, but she also has the Evernight series, which is about vampires, so she's pretty much covered like every type of paranormal creature of the night. So she is definitely just an author in general you should pick up because she really writes well. But this was just a really cool story about witches, and I think, but just like bear with me because I remember really enjoying this, but I also can't remember what it's about. Like, I remember there was some bond that happened between the main character, because she was the witch, and this dude, I think there was a curse on his family, and then they accidentally got linked through the curse, and then like if one dies, the other dies. It's something like that, and they have to try and break this bond, but there's also like her curse is something different, and then he's got a curse, and then there's the other characters that have curses. Like, it's a very big curse society here, but the witch magic and the actual witchery was like really, really cool. And this is a very old school series, but I just remember having really nostalgic vibes for it. Like, I really enjoyed it at the time. I'm sure I could give this trilogy a reread, but I have so many other books more pressing, but maybe down the line I would. But if you just wanted like an interesting take on witches, I would highly recommend picking this one up. Next, I want to talk about the Wake series by Amanda Hocking. So this one's actually about sirens, which I still feel could be creatures of the night. Like, I had a really strong vibe of wanting to read books about mermaids and sirens there for a while, and I still always have that vibe. That's always going to be something I want to read about, but I haven't done it for a while. But I just really liked this story because it's about two sisters, and one of them gets taken and turned into a siren, and the other one's trying to save her. And basically there's 4 books, and it just goes along where there's this group of sirens that like really aren't nice people, and they've taken this sister, and I can't remember their names. I know that the one that's not a siren is called Gemma, I think, but there's also like, they both have their own relationships and story and love story going on there that I was very invested in. And there's just a lot of different elements to this story, because like every time something happens there's so many moving parts, and obviously that's how books work. But I just feel that this book really like isn't just the sirens, like it isn't just about the sisters. Like, there are so many different things at play that keep coming up, and obviously over the course of the 4 books a lot does happen. But I really enjoyed the series, and I found it really easy to like read it semi back to back. Like, this is definitely something that I read back in the day when I first started my booktube, so obviously all the books that I was reading at that time are very different to all the books that I'm reading now, but I still would highly recommend this just because it was really fun. And now to talk about Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas, because I said that there was a book that you would know that is coming up, because obviously this is about Ghost. I'm gonna keep mentioning this in every video. I feel at the moment every time I finish a book it seems to fit every 7 on Sunday for the next month. Like, honestly, I don't know how that keeps working, but it does. This was a really fun book. I really liked how much we got to learn about the magic system and about the Latinx world here, and also to know about the characters, because Yadriel was such an amazing character. I loved following his story. And then you've got Julian, who seems like kind of bad news when you're first introduced to him, but then he slowly starts getting into your heart, and he's like the best character. And then you got Maritza, who is another amazing character, and I feel like this book was just full of mystery. There was a lot of different things going on, and I had a lot of fun trying to figure out like what was the big plot, what was the big story here, and you know, also the vibe of them falling in love when one of them's dead. It's a very interesting and unique dynamic, and I've really enjoyed this story. And the last book I'm going to mention is Anna Dressed in Blood by Kendare Blake. So this is a book that I read more recent, and this is probably the one that I liked the least out of my list, because I really expected kind of more from it, because it was very moody, and the main character, I think his name was like Cal or something, was just very moody about life, and he's like, oh, my dad died and I have to avenge him and blah blah blah. Like, I understand, dude, it's sad, but also just like try to live your life and be happy with people around you. But the ghost element was actually very interesting, because Anna doesn't really know what happened to her, and she's stuck in this house, and every time someone tries to enter the house something takes over her and just kills them. So there's like a lot of blood and murder in this book. Like, I would say, like, you know, this book doesn't hold back, but I also hate horror, so for me saying it means absolutely nothing to people that actually like horror. But I just feel like there was times when I was just like, whoa, you just got murdered, and that was intense. I also did like the way that the relationship developed, because obviously he's a ghost hunter and she is this like poltergeist that's trying to kill bitches, and he's like, oh, I love you. It was fun. Like, I just felt like I really wanted more from this story. But if you again want another really good ghost story, I would highly recommend. Okay guys, so that is all for today's video. I feel like my recommendations are very basic. I feel like they could be expanded on, but I just don't really delve into these type of stories anymore. I'm just glad I have 7 that I can talk about. Like, I've read other things, like obviously I read the Fallen series, which is about angels, and that feels like creature of the night to me, and also Twilight, which is also vampires, and as I said, Evermore, and different things that I have read. But I would say that all of these did have enjoyment factor, and for the fact that this is about creatures of the night, I feel like that element of these stories was done just very well. But anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!